He was the weakest until he got the power of the monster god. If you dig my recaps, don't forget to subscribe and smash that notification bell. On a soccer training field, a player declares that if he wins, the dream will end. Rin responds that he doesn't want to play like that, but his challenger is determined to press on. He fills his body with a sinister energy, causing his eyes to emit a smoky glow. According to him, this match will be a one-shot deal. He quickly dribbles towards Rin and cuts to the right, gaining ground. Rin chases after him and manages to catch up, but the opponent uses one of his abilities, spinning with superhuman speed, leaving Rin in the dust. Rin tries to call out to his brother, but the challenger remains aggressive, questioning what Rin has been doing during the 4 years he wasn't around. Faced with this challenge, Rin loses control of his breathing. Next, we see a document detailing the characteristics of Itoshi Rin, a right-footed athlete 16 years old and 6 feet 1 inch tall. Ego, who's observing the document, receives a call from a man thanking him for his help. The man says that thanks to Asahi Itoshi's interest in Blue Lock, the media went wild and tickets are selling like crazy. Without changing his expression, Ego asks if the guy has finished babbling. The man, now angry, questions whether Ego really believes a bunch of strikers can defeat Japan's under-20 team. Ego then breaks into a smile and replies that Blue Lock was created to change Japanese soccer. Soon after, Blue Lock's executive director gathers all the athletes for a selection announcement. He informs them that out of the 300 high school strikers, only 35 survived the process to become the world's #1. The next match will be in 3 weeks against Japan's under-20 national team, captained by Asahi Itoshi. If Blue Lock wins, they'll have the chance to represent the country, but if they lose, the program will be shut down. Hearing this, Isagi Yoshi can't hide his anxiety. Just a few months ago, he was a nobody. But after being called to Blue Lock, he's learned a lot about his ego, even though he's come close to dying to stay there. Now, if he wins this match, he'll be on the team representing Japan, but on the other hand, losing will mean the end of this dream. This game will determine his future and career, his chance to change his life. Next to him, Reichai Jingo seems to understand that this is their golden opportunity, but wants to know how they'll form a team since there are only strikers in this program. Gagamaru Jin fears that some players might be chosen to play midfield or defense, and his nightmare comes true when Ego declares that the team will be entirely made up of forwards. Tokimitsu Ayashi is sure they won't stand a chance that way, but Aryu Jubei doesn't care about this detail at all. Some teammates threaten to complain about Aryu's laid-back attitude, but Ego quickly silences them, calling for order. Now he's going to announce the 6 names that will be the core of the team, the 6 players at the top of Blue Lock based on their overall performance. The first called is Rin Itoshi, the #1 player so far. The second is Rusei Shido, who displays his usual confidence. Igarashi Gurmu is surprised, not realizing how good this guy was. Shido circles around Rin in a provocative gesture, but Rin pays no attention. The third player called is Tabito Karasu, who carries himself with an arrogant and irreverent posture. Ida Otoya is fourth, but he shows no reaction of surprise or joy at being named. The fifth is Kenyu Yukimiya, who shows more humility and feels honored by the opportunity. Now only one more remains, and Isagi hopes to be chosen, but it's Seishiro Nagi who's called. Yukimiya questions what criteria were used to decide the best players, and Ego explains that of the 35 players, only Rin Itoshi and Rusei Shido managed to score a goal against the 5 world-class players. The rest is based on the total number of goals in the first selection and evaluations from the 5 players. Lastly, Ego states that his arbitrary decision is the most decisive factor, and he asks if Mr. Model Glasses Nice Guy is satisfied with the answer, to which he replies yes. Jin wonders if that guy is really a model, while Jingo feels anger over that fact. Now begins the second selection, where Ego splits the 6 best players into 3 teams, pairing them according to rank. The remaining 29 athletes must choose which of these 3 teams they want to join. This will create teams of 5, adding 3 players to each of the duos from the top 6. Each team will play a 5-player match. Isagi reflects that Ego is looking for players who blend well with the attacking styles of the top 6. Ego continues explaining that aside from the top 6, the other 29 will have a chance to play, and these selections will decide the team that will face Japan's under-20s. Because of the number of players, one athlete will be able to play 2 matches, and this player will be the 7th member remember the vice captain. The one responsible for this role will be Meguru Bakira. Upon hearing this, Asahi reflects that he was fighting alongside these guys just the other day, but somehow they surpassed him and left him behind. Ego orders the top 6 to head to a room, and as they enter, he reminds them that the current player ranking is not set in stone, and even one of the top 6 could fail the selection. Now addressing the remaining 29 players, he says the key to doing well in this competition is to have assertiveness and coexistence going against the strong personalities and high scores of the top 6. Lastly, he emphasizes that overcoming should be the focus because the top 6 are not friends to play with but steps to be climbed on. In other words, the 29 must rise above the best players. With that, Ego gives them 24 hours to decide which team they want to join. Afterwards, some players gather in the cafeteria for lunch. Igiguri takes full advantage and eats as much as he can as promised because he's no fool to let an opportunity like that slip by. Jin snatches a piece of his food, which enraged him, leading to immediate retaliation and turning the cafeteria into utter chaos. Jingo mentions that they couldn't get the whole old Team Z together because Naruhaya isn't there, along with Cure, the traitor, Imamura, the ladies' man, and Iman, the goalkeeper. Asahi recalls that Kunigami is also missing, and Bakira is surprised that such a skilled player would get eliminated considering how good he is with the ball at his feet. Igiguri speculates that Shido might have kicked him out, but Chijiri understands that this kind of thing is just part of the Blue Lock experience. The clearest example of the madness of this place is the fact that everything disappears if they lose to the U20. There's simply no time to worry about anyone else. Jingo wants to know if people have already decided on their pairs for the game. Igiguri is going to team A because he's already synced with Shido. Jin's unsure between B or C, while Bakira says he'll leave it up to luck, reminding them that he still has 2 games to play. Jingo is frustrated that Bakira lucked out compared to the rest of Team Z, while Chijiri admits he hasn't made up his mind yet. Finally, Asahi stumbles over his answer, leading Bakira to guess that he'll probably end up with Team A or C, meaning either with Rin or Nagi. After all, if Asahi wants to create some chemical reaction with his weapon, Team C lets him execute set plays with Nagi. But if he wants to bet on an untapped potential, Rin is the better choice. Asahi quickly realizes that his friend hit the nail on the head and starts thinking about which team to join. Meanwhile, in the VIP room, Yukimiya introduces himself to Nagi, his new teammate, who responds with much less courtesy. Shido walks in full of swagger, joking that he and the number 1 will become best pals. But when Rin ignores him, Shido decides to throw a kick at his teammate. Rin barely dodges, and Yukimiya tries to step in and separate them. But Karasu thinks they should just let them fight. It's better to play against exhausted and injured players anyway. At that moment, Ego steps in to put an end to the foolishness. With things calmer, he reveals that the men in the room are considered the Blue Lock Aces, where each pair represents the strongest partnerships Ego envisioned to play together in an experimental style of super attacks. The idea is to create tactics variations and attacking skills they wouldn't be able to achieve alone. However, rule number 1 is that no player is allowed to lose their spot as a Blue Lock Ace. Amidst all of this, Asahi remains deep in thought, trying to figure out what they're aiming for with these selections, wondering if coexistence refers to chemical reactions with the top 6, while assertiveness means simply not getting crushed by them. These questions fill his mind to the point of almost driving him mad, but Shaoe Baru snaps him out of it, shaking him back to his senses. Asahi asks which team Baru wants to join, and Baru replies, any except C, where that pain in the neck is. Playing with people he already knows won't help him grow, but no matter where he ends up, Baru is certain that he'll never stop being the king. He then questions why Asahi isn't among the top 6, admitting he'd love to crush him, but doesn't want the weakling to get eliminated too soon. With that, Baru walks away, and Nico Iki appears, asking to borrow some acne cream. Then he comments that Ego is trying to ignite the competitive spirit among the players, but at the end of the day, he just wants to see who's capable of being in the top 6. Nico plans to choose teammates who let him play the way he wants, as he's tired of being a secondary character. After all, as Asahi himself said, if you want the spotlight, you've got to steal it. With that, Nico asks him to leave so he can wash wash his acne-ridden forehead in peace. Asahi then isolates himself to think about which team he wants to be on. If he chooses Rin's team, it won't be easy to stand out, so joining Naga's team would be the simpler choice. While reflecting, Ryo Mikage suddenly appears, admitting that it's not an easy decision for him either. He's leaning toward Nagi's team, but ever since Nagi chose Asahi over him in the second selection, Ryo has wanted revenge, even though his new rival is on a whole other level. Ryo finds himself at a crossroads, unsure if he has the confidence to play alongside Nagi or against him. Similarly, Asahi confesses that he'd hate to lose to Nagi and feel him drifting further away. But either way, the conversation helps him decide who he wants to team up with. The next day after the voting ends, the athletes are told to get dressed and gather immediately for the team announcements. Asahi chose Team A alongside Rin and notices on the big screen that Bakira made the same choice. He then sees that Baru, Reichai, Nico, and Chigi ended up in the same group, while Nagi's team has Zentetsu and Gagamaru. As for Ryo, he indeed chose to stay with Nagi. Meanwhile, Hiratishi Buritsuda, special advisor to the Japan Football Union, listens as Seiji Hoishi, the U20 director, vows to do everything for the good of Japanese football. Afterward, Buritsuda steps on the blue lock emblem and demands that they be destroyed, but to do so they'll have to rely on their team captain. If you're enjoying this journey, don't forget to hit that like button. Your support helps motivate me to keep bringing you each episode. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.